We've got major breaking news in the coronavirus outbreak. New York is deploying National Guard to New Rochelle. For those that are not familiar, New Rochelle is just to the east of Yonkers. It is the New York City metropolitan area. It's just a bit north of the Bronx. So this seems to be a bit serious. They've confirmed, I believe, 25 new cases overnight, putting the total in New York up to 165. Now, I want to stress this before I go over the other news. Tucker Carlson recently came out slamming both sides, saying you can't downplay it, you can't cause panic, but bring up really important points. Notably, while we look at a global mortality rate of around 3.4%, you need to understand it's actually substantially higher for older people and at-risk individuals. Tucker mentioning that for older people, it could be as high as 8%. So if you're young, you're probably going to get a mild cold, you'll probably be fine, but many people do get hospitalized, and the older, more vulnerable people are facing a much more high, more than double the 3.4% rate. We're seeing right now a doctor in California is demanding that schools shut down immediately. He says as he reveals 3 relatively young men near LA celebrity suburb Calabasas are very ill after contracting the disease on an Italian ski trip. So these are young men, relatively young men that are sick. And now Harvard is ordering their dorms to be vacated. Please. We need to take this one seriously. They're calling out the National Guard. I can't tell you what this means, how bad it's going to be. I can just tell you what the reaction is. And let's step aside all of the arguments about whether you should do nothing, whether you should overreact, and just look at what governments are doing, okay? It's that simple. What did China do? Authoritarian lockdown. What did Italy just do? The entire country of Italy is now locked down. And what's going on in New York? They are calling in the National Guard. They are taking this very seriously. While some want to tell you everything's fine, it's being blown out of proportion, that may be the case, and that would be the best case scenario, that it's just media hype. But I can't tell you why the governments, various government institutions are acting this way. And all I can really do is I'll tell you this. When you see a crowd of people running in one direction and screaming, here's what you don't do. You don't join the crowd and run with them, but you also get out of wherever it is you are. Story I often used to exemplify this is when I was in Venezuela several years ago, and there were a bunch of people running away from the direction of the National Guard in this country. We didn't know what they were running from, so we ran to the west. They ran, I don't know the exact direction, but from my perspective, I watched them run that way to my left. I turned around and ran the other direction, away from both groups. What I'm trying to say is, just because the governments are panicking doesn't mean you should do the same thing they're doing. But the CDC is now advising all at-risk individuals to stock up on supplies and isolate themselves. This may not be the absolute worst thing we've ever seen, in terms of coronavirus. In terms of pandemic or outbreaks. All I can really tell you is that if you see other people running and yelling fire, perhaps there is something to be concerned about. Let's read about what they're doing at the National Guard, and then we'll move through these stories. Times Union reports New York National Guard troops were deployed to a health department command post in New Rochelle early Tuesday, as Governor Andrew Cuomo said another 25 cases were confirmed overnight. The deployment came as Chinese Premier Xi Jinping visited Wuhan, the city where the outbreak began, and declared that China has gained control. Now, I'm not entirely convinced they have. I'm more likely to believe they're lying about what's happening. And it looks like things are under control because they're not testing testing people anymore. They've probably just locked down and said, we're fine, everybody. Nothing to see here. A spokesman for Cuomo did not immediately comment on the addition of National Guard troops in New Rochelle, where most of New York's more than 165 cases of COVID-19 are concentrated. We're taking more dramatic actions in this cluster, Cuomo told CNN on Tuesday morning without mentioning the troops. Cuomo on Monday said the panic that you see is unwarranted. We have dealt with worse viruses, and that may be the case. So all you can really do is take a look at his words and take a look at his actions. Go back, and with the other viruses, did they deploy National Guard? Maybe they did. The troops are deployed to a health department command post where nurses are being outfitted with protective gear before being sent to gather coronavirus samples and to check on those under quarantine at their residences. In the appearance on CNN Tuesday morning, Cuomo said that New York and other states are not doing enough testing. And he noted that nations, including South Korea and China, have conducted thousands more tests per day, albeit with methods that may not be as accurate as those used in the United States. What you will see is the number will continue to increase because they have increased. We are not testing enough people to know where it is. And I'll also stop to mention, at the latest count, I believe that there are 9 states that have declared a state of emergency so far. So keep this all in mind and act accordingly. One thing you should absolutely not do, like these lunatics on this video. What you're seeing right here is a store opening up and hordes of people rushing to the toilet paper aisle. I kid you not. These people are insane. How stupid do you have to be to do this? First of all, you can't eat toilet paper. Why they are all rushing for toilet paper, I have no idea, but boy, are people dumb. You want to know why I'm saying they're dumb? Because when you have a viral outbreak, the last thing you should do is go into a crowded supermarket and fight over toilet paper with people. How maddening is this? You know what you do? You go calmly and quietly in the wee hours or when it's not super crazy. You go to a 24-hour store, you get food. That's what you need. But for some reason, people are so insanely stupid. They are fighting over toilet paper. I kid you not. There are so many videos of people with a shopping cart full of toilet paper. In Australia, they have armed guards. I believe this is Australia as well. They have not armed guards. They have guards. I keep saying that. Sorry, it's not true. They have guards stationed around the toilet paper. That's how insane these people are. You got to be a special kind of stupid to rush full speed into a crowd of people when you are scared of an infectious disease. You're supposed to isolate yourself. These people are insane. No, they're just really, really dumb. Oh, I cannot believe this. There are few things in the world that make me angry. I'll tell you what. This is one of the most maddening things. What are these people thinking? Do they have any basic mental faculties to explain to them how viruses work? They think they're going to wipe their butts through this disease to survive. Are you nuts? You know, when you run out of food, start chewing on the toilet paper. We'll see how that plays out. Let's get back to the story, though. After Boston officials announced they are canceling St. Patrick's Day parade to limit crowd gatherings, Cuomo said, "That's one of the things we're looking at," when asked if they may cancel its parade. The state continues testing and mandating quarantines for those exposed to or infected by the virus. Of the 142 confirmed cases announced Monday, 8 of those individuals were hospitalized. Cuomo tweeted Tuesday, there were 8,459 confirmed cases of the flu in New York last week. People are reacting like this is the Ebola virus, Cuomo said Monday on the reaction to COVID-19. This spreads like the flu, but most people will have it and they will get on with their lives. Yes. And what he's not telling you is that the flu mortality rate is 0.1%. And what he's not telling you is that most people have, I believe all people have almost, or I should say most, I don't want to speak in absolutes. There's no immunity to this. One of the things I was reading was that because flu strains can be very similar, you may have some partial immunity or your immune system may react much more quickly and better to the flu, hence a very low mortality rate. So yes, many people are sick, but we're talking about something completely different. It's an annoying whataboutism. The flu is bad. Coronavirus is bad. They're bad for different reasons. Stop acting like, oh, but who cares? 8,000 people have the flu. That's bad too, dude. So how about we take precautions because of the extremely high, or relatively high mortality rate, and then we see the flu go down along with it. How does it make sense to be like, it's fine, other people will die of the flu and a lot more. That makes this disease completely okay. No, it doesn't. This one's novel. It's new. We have no immunity. There's potentially an 8% mortality for the elderly, for people who are at higher risk, compromised immune systems. And the same would be true, to a certain degree with the flu, but the mortality of the flu is 0.1%. 98 of New York's cases are in Westchester County. And we don't need to read all that. Let's move on to the next story here. Doctor treating coronavirus patients is demanding schools be shut down. So what's interesting here is that he's talking about relatively young men who are very ill, he says. A California doctor treating coronavirus patients has urged officials to close down local schools immediately after revealing that 3 men near LA's celebrity suburb of Calabasas are very ill. Dr. Sam Fink, who is a primary care physician treating coronavirus patients in Tarzana, the wealthy LA suburb just 10 miles from Kim Kardashian's home, has warned that the disease is unlike anything he has ever seen. He says, quote, "I have practiced for over 30 years and I have seen it all, or so I thought. Nothing has me worried like this," he wrote on Facebook on Sunday. adding that he has been shocked to see the impact of the fast-spreading virus. Essentially, 14 men went on a ski trip in northern Italy. All have become ill, and all 14 have tested positive for the virus. Of the 14, four needed to be hospitalized, and of the 4 patients, 3 are very ill as I write this. 1 had a significant pre-existing medical condition. The other 3 did not and are relatively young. This is a post he made on Facebook. Now, I'll tell you what. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if he's more trustworthy, but I will tell you, governments have a vested interest in preventing panic. It's why Trump is downplaying this, because people will freak out. We're seeing the market take a hit. He doesn't want that to continue. It will be bad for everyone. If markets take a hit, if the economy gets hurt, and it is, that actually impedes our ability to develop vaccines and fight against these. So it's a downward spiral. We have to resist this. How you solve for it, I'm not the expert. I don't know. What I can tell you is you've got 2 considerations. The media will overhype things and freak you out. I am no exception for this rule. I will tell you what I see in the press, and if it is exaggerated, then I'm going to be conveying that same information. So be careful, but protect yourself. I don't know what's right. I'm telling you exactly how I feel. It's the best I can do. It may be overblown. It might not be. The government may be telling you the truth. I tend not to trust them. I think Trump is looking at a tanking market, a stagnant economy taking a massive hit. It's bad for him, especially in an election year. And so he's saying it's just going to be fine. And a lot of Trump supporters are saying the same thing. That may be true. It may be the case. But here we have a guy on Facebook who could just be some, it looks like he's a doctor. He's got pictures of him, but maybe he's not. I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't trust this guy. I can't tell you what to do. But what he's saying makes it sound much more severe. So when I look at Italy's lockdown, China's lockdown, the rapid mobilization and the deployment of National Guard, I think it stands to reason this is a lot worse than even the media is letting on, because the media is only saying what they can say about the latest news. They say the 3 men traveled back to the United States February 27th after visiting Cortina di Ampezzo in northern Italy in the Dolomites. The LA County Health Department has confirmed 8 cases of coronavirus among a group of travelers who recently returned from northern Italy. Sources tell the Daily Mail that the other members of the group who reside elsewhere in the U.S. and abroad have also fallen ill since returning home. The news out of northern Italy today is not good, Dr. Fink said, as he urged the public to take measures beyond vigorous hand washing and hand sanitizing. He also urged schools to close and locals to avoid big groups. I recommend to all who read this that you avoid going to large group events such as sporting events and concerts. I believe that all schools should be closed immediately and classes conducted online, which is relatively simple. I know that so far, children infected with coronavirus have done relatively well, but they might come home and hug grandpa and won't do so well. Avoid contact with others as much as possible. CV in the United States is a relatively early stage, but it won't last there for long. Make sure you have any medications you need as well as supplies, but panicking hurts all of us. You know what, man? If you're one of these people who ran in full speed to Walmart or Sam's Club or whatever, or Costco, to fight over toilet paper, guess what? The likelihood you get this is going up dramatically because you are exacerbating contact with other people in a fight over something you don't need. Milk, bread, and eggs. That's the joke, right? It's going to snow. Go get the milk and go get the bread and milk. Got to get the bread and milk. Toilet paper? Who comes up with this? You know what I think it is? A self-fulfilling prophecy. That people started snatching up toilet paper, so then other people panicked and started snatching up toilet paper. What are you going to do with 100+ rolls of toilet paper, man? I'm seeing these videos of people with shopping carts full of stuff. Are you stupid? You can't eat it. And all you're doing is risking your safety by rushing into a crowd. I cannot believe how dumb people are. Tucker Carlson blasts both sides for Chinese coronavirus response. In a few weeks, U.S. could be where Italy is now. He's right. He's absolutely right. Remember when I first covered Italy? Few isolated cases. They didn't care. I told everybody to buy some emergency food. Go get supplies from the store. Buy some emergency food, freeze-dried stuff, or not freeze-dried, but like vacuum sealed. And I think some of it's freeze-dried. Lasts you a long time. And I promoted a company. And a bunch of people started laughing. I hope you're enjoying it now. The local stores near us are having their shelves raided. It's not that bad. I'll admit, right now where I'm at, A few of the stores have some sections that are completely empty, and we were surprised to find that because I really didn't think it would reach us. I'm like, I get New York, I get, other Seattle, because they have confirmed cases and people are freaking out. I'm in South Jersey. I'm in the Philly suburbs. I didn't think I'd see it, but guess what? We did. One of the stores is totally fine. We didn't notice anything. One of the stores has a bunch of shelves that are actually empty, and that was surprising to us. My buddy sends me pictures, and I was like, wow. I really didn't think so. But you know what? I didn't gamble. As soon as the news started hitting, I was like, I think we should go to the store and pick up food now. Because here's the thing. We got what we needed. We didn't overreact. And in fact, I had one friend of mine said, I think you should have bought a lot more. I don't think you bought enough. So I don't know. Maybe I didn't. But now we went shopping recently, and it's like the shelves are actually, some of them are just wiped out. Empty shelves. Not that bad. I don't want to pretend like the stores are totally empty. They're completely empty. But no, like there were a lot of people, massive traffic. Surprising. If I went right now, it'd probably be fine. But people are buying up much more than usual, which was surprising. If you didn't do that, you're going to find that if this does bring us to where Italy is right now, you're going to be in trouble, man. Italy is locking everything down. They're threatening people with, I think, 3 months. Like it's a crime to try and break quarantine. There are people who cannot go out and go shopping. There's on Reddit, they were asking people, if you live in Italy, like what's happening? And people saying locked in our houses, using the internet, trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of young people saying they're doing school from their laptops now. The whole country is locked down. All of Italy. So let's go back. Let me get to that point. A couple weeks ago, last month, when I said, hey man, this could get really bad. If you should buy supplies. And that was before the lockdown. Then Italy announced they are locking down some parts of northern Italy. Someone hit me up and said, thanks for telling us. My friends and family didn't want to go do it, but I convinced them. Now they are all locked down, the entirety of the country. We are seeing sporting events canceled. Serie A, I believe, has been canceled. The soccer match, I think this is in France or Italy, I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about soccer, to be honest. South by Southwest, gone. Google I.O., gone. People are being ordered to work from home. In New York, they're saying, work from home. This is exactly what we saw in China and Italy, although it happened much more quickly in China. In Italy, they had a few isolated cases and said, we're fine, and now the whole country is locked down. Maybe it's an overreaction, but all that really matters is that we're seeing a pattern of effect. I believe every EU country now has some confirmed cases, and it might be one or two, right, early stages. The good news is we caught it early. That's the problem. People say, so what? So there's only 100 people in New York out of what, millions? We're fine. No, we caught it early, and we're telling you that 100 people can lead to 1,000 people in a couple days. Or I don't know what the exact rate is, but if one person can infect, 10 more, then we're looking at, in a few weeks, the U.S. could be where Italy is. Total lockdown. Now, look, China's authoritarian, and Tucker brought up a really interesting point. It's scary stuff, man. That Italy is a Western nation much like our own, and they've locked everything down, and they're going to charge people with crimes. I get it. It's a tough challenge. I always err on the side of freedom, but man, we're dealing with something that could potentially be potentially deadly. So I'll tell you this: I am absolutely opposed to authoritarian lockdowns. I personally would choose to avoid going out. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get anyone else sick. But what do you do, man? I honestly do not know. Let me tell you what they're doing in New York, though. New York's emergency surge plan for severe pandemic calls for Rikers Island inmates to dig mass graves to bury up to 51,000 bodies as coronavirus cases increase. Now, this is definitely shock content, to say the least. It is true that Rikers inmates go to Hart Island and bury bodies. It's a public cemetery, people who can't afford to be buried, homeless people, old people, no family. So the inmates do this. That's creepy. And it is their plan to, have the Rikers inmates start, digging graves. Really creepy. I do not believe we're going to need mass graves, though. So they're trying to be like, they're taking an old story that is true and conflating it with the coronavirus, like as if this is really going to happen or a possibility. In reality, we know what New York's plan is. We know this exists. It's gross and freaky, in my opinion. But no one is suggesting we're going to need mass graves. I think that's a bit absurd. You take this old bit of information, combine it with coronavirus fears, and you get a crazy story that everyone's going to freak out about. I'll tell you what we should be worried about. If the governments are wrong, if everybody's wrong, the panic. People running into stores full speed to get that toilet paper. That's what's going to be worrisome. Supply chain disruption, economic disruption, market collapse. These things are actually happening. Maybe even a run on the banks. I hope not. I'll tell you what, man. Get some supplies, get some emergency food, hang out, play some video games. You'll be all right. Just take care of yourself and pay attention. I will wrap it up by stressing, for those that have watched to this point, New York has deployed the National Guard. We are heading in the direction of Italy and China. For now, it starts with medical command assist. Italy was doing, self-isolation. Hey, just, keep yourself in your home. They went too light. They caught it early enough, but didn't react hard enough. Now they're reacting even harder than they should have had to. I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to chill out. We'll see how this plays out. It could be nothing. It could be overreaction. I don't know what else to say. I'll leave it there. I'll see you all at 4 p.m. on the main channel, youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out again. I will see you then.